Hello everyone and welcome to my B&B Fan Club channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Hope Logan stood in the quiet of her Los Angeles apartment, the city's hum providing a faint background to the chaos in her mind. Her hand rested on her abdomen, where a faint curve indicated that life was growing inside her. She was pregnant, as confirmed by the 3 tests she'd taken, as if repetition could reveal not only the outcome but also the tangled web of her life. Her mother Brooke had once referred to their family's drama as the bold and the beautiful, a nickname that now seemed cruelly ironic. Hope had no idea who the father was, and the uncertainty was a burden she bore alone, a secret that threatened to unravel everything. The previous few months had been a blur of passion, heartbreak, and reckless behavior. Hope had always taken pride in being the grounded Logan, avoiding the scandals that seemed to cling to her family like a second skin. But love, or whatever it was that had drawn her into the arms of 2 men, had a way of shattering even the strongest will. There was Liam Spencer, her on and off again love, whose charm and devotion were both familiar and infuriating. And then there was Thomas Forrester, her former adversary who had evolved into something far more complicated, a confidant, a temptation, and a mistake. Hope sank into her couch, the soft leather creaking beneath her weight. She closed her eyes, attempting to piece together the events that had brought her here. It started with Liam, as it always does. Their history was a tapestry of love and betrayal, woven from years of shared dreams and broken promises. They'd been attempting to rebuild after yet another setback, a cycle that seemed as natural as the tides. One night, after a charity gala at Forrester Creations, they found themselves alone in the design studio, surrounded by sketches and fabric swatches. The air was thick with unspoken apologies, and when Liam kissed her, it was like falling into a memory. They'd made love on the cutting board, a risky act motivated by nostalgia and champagne. But the next morning, Liam had grown distant, retreating into his doubts, leaving Hope to wonder if they'd ever truly reconnect. Then there was Thomas. Hope had fought her attraction to him for years, wary of his previous manipulations and the lingering shadow of his obsession with her. But Thomas had changed, or so it appeared. He'd worked hard to establish himself not only as a designer, but also as a man worthy of her confidence. They'd grown close while working on a new line for Hope for the future, their late-night work sessions blurring the lines between professional and personal. After a long day, they shared a bottle of wine in his loft. The conversation had become intimate, and Hope found herself in his arms, his touch both foreign and thrilling. It was a moment of weakness, a surrender to the part of her that desired something new, free of the baggage she carried with Liam. Several weeks later, the consequences of those nights were undeniable. Hope opened her eyes and stared at the pregnancy test stick she had left on the coffee table. The 2 pink lines appeared to mock her, reminding her that her life was no longer solely her own. She hadn't told anyone yet, including her mother, sister, and best friend Steffi. The thought of confessing her doubts about the father made her stomach turn. The Logan women were not new to scandal, but this felt different, more personal and isolating. Hope had always desired a family, a secure, loving environment for her children. But how could she create that when she had no idea who the other half of this child's story would be? She picked up her phone and scrolled through her contacts, unsure about Liam's name. Didn't he deserve to know? Even if the baby wasn't his, keeping it from him felt like a betrayal. But what will she say? Liam, I'm pregnant, but it might be Thomas's? The words remained in her throat, too heavy to speak. And Thomas, how could she face him, knowing that the hope in his eyes would either be realized or destroyed? Thomas had always wanted more with her, had imagined a future together. If the baby was his, would it be a blessing or a curse, binding her to a man she wasn't sure she could completely trust? The apartment door buzzed, startling her. She looked at the clock. 8:47 p.m. She wasn't expecting anyone, and the sudden appearance felt like a sign. She crossed the room, her bare feet silent on the hardwood, and opened the door to see Brooke standing there, her expression a mix of concern and determination. Hope's mother had an uncanny ability to detect when something was wrong, as if the Logan bloodline contained a radar for emotional distress. Hope, sweetheart, you haven't answered my calls all day, Brooke said, walking in without waiting for an invitation. Her gaze scanned Hope's face, sensing the tension there. What is going on? Hope tried to smile, but it faltered under Brooke's scrutiny. Nothing, Mom. Brooke's brow furrowed. Just tired. She placed her purse on the counter and crossed her arms. Do not do that. Do not shut me out. I know you, Hope. Something is wrong. The desire to confess was overwhelming, but Hope bit her lip and held back. How could she explain this without bringing her mother into the mess? Brooke had her own history of complicated relationships and scandals, which had defined the Logan legacy. Hope didn't want to add to the story, or be another cautionary tale. But the silence between them stretched, heavy with anticipation, and Hope felt the dam inside her begin to crack. I'm pregnant, she exclaimed, the words spilling before she could stop them. Brooke's eyes widened, a flash of joy quickly replaced by caution. Pregnant? Oh, Hope, that's wonderful. She paused, studying her daughter's expression. But isn't there more? Why don't you seem happy? Hope sank back into the couch, hands covering her face. Because I'm not sure who the father is, Mom. It could be Liam. Or it could be Thomas. The confession hung in the air, raw and jagged. Brooke did not gasp or recoil, but her silence spoke volumes. She sat beside Hope, putting her hand on her daughter's knee. Okay, she finally replied, her voice steady. Let's figure this out together. Hope shook her head, tears welling up. There is nothing to figure out. I messed up. I let myself get caught up in both of them, and now I don't know what to do. Brooke tightened her grip on Hope's knee. You aren't alone in this, Hope. You do not need to have all the answers right now. But you must be honest with yourself, Liam and Thomas. You can't carry this on your own. Hope wanted to believe her mother, to believe that honesty would somehow make things right. But the thought of confronting Liam and Thomas and seeing their reactions filled her with dread. The facts are graphic, but the author remains anonymous. The community erupted, with calls flooding the Gazette and rallies outside the hospital gates. Deke basked in accolades, promotions whispered, but Poppy disappeared. She discontinued visits and barricaded her flat with drawn curtains. When Deke knocked, she screamed through the door. You made it worse. Now everyone's staring, judging. Luna's alive, and I'm the monster who won't hug her. He broke in that night, disregarding journalistic ethics, and found Poppy curled on the floor among Luna's old belongings. A faded prom dress, a diary yellowed with time. Why can't I be happy? She cried. Deke knelt, his new title felt like fool's gold. Because happiness is a thief. It steals the pain we need to survive. His voice lost its buoyant lilt for the first time. They chatted till morning, unraveling links such as Deke's sorrow over Lila and Poppy's fear of falling in love again, only to be rejected. Luna awoke completely on Sunday, her voice rasping. Mom! Poppy entered, flanked by Deke. The reunion was not a Hallmark moment. Poppy froze, tears finally falling. Not joy, but a frightening torrent of fury and grief. I mourned you. I lived without you, now what? She slumped, sobbing as Luna stretched out. Deke watched as his dizzying high faded, replaced with a misery all his own. The thrill of success tainted by the blood on his byline. Months passed in a flurry of uncertain recovery, yet the distinct sadness stayed, a darkness no light could dispel. Poppy and Luna coexisted uneasily, with uncomfortable discussions over burnt toast for morning. Luna, traumatized by coma visions, resented her mother's distance. You buried me twice, once in the ground, once in your heart. Poppy attempted therapy, but sessions ended in silences that weighed more than words. Deke, who had been promoted again, pushed himself into exposés, but each one mirrored his own split. He dated seldom, but ladies avoided his haunting eyes. The job was my dream, he'd add. But dreams curdle. One autumn evening a year later, they met at Luna's grave, the empty one, now a monument to mistake. Poppy put wildflowers and Luna played jazz recordings. Deke read aloud his most recent essay, a private elegy for lost years, rather than publishing it. As the leaves swirled, Poppy finally embraced Luna, whispering, "I'm sorry." My shock. It was fear of joy. But the hug was fleeting. Melancholy, unique and indelible, whispered that some wounds go deeper than skin. Deke walked away alone, his elevation a hollow victory. 3 spirits roamed Eldridge's peaceful streets, connected by a miracle that revealed the darkest truth. Life regained can be the cruelest steel of all. The wind howled through the cracked window of Poppy's flat, conveying the aroma of damp earth and faraway grief. It was the first winter after the revelation, and snow covered Eldridge like a cloak, muffled the world's roar. Poppy sat at the kitchen table, a half-empty mug of chamomile tea resting between her hands. Across from her, Luna plucked at a plate of pasta, sketching patterns in the sauce rather than eating it. The quiet stretched as tense as a violin string about to snap. "I saw the article again today," Luna finally replied, her tone mild but accusatory. "Online. People are still talking. The woman who rejected her miracle daughter." Poppy's grip tightened. "That wasn't the title. Deke promised." "Deke's your friend now? The one who turned my life into headlines?" Luna's eyes blazed with hurt, just like Poppy's. "I woke up to nurses gawking, reporters at the door, and you weren't there." Poppy remembered the shock of that first day as if it were fresh scars. She paused in the doorway, her heart pounding, seeing a specter steal Luna's face rather than her daughter. The machine beeps taunted her, and the girl's timid smile penetrated like shrapnel. Poppy had fled, vomiting in the bathroom, her body rejecting what her soul couldn't bear. Grief had been her constant companion, even on lonely nights. Joy. It was a stranger who demanded admittance with false promises. Deke's engagement had served as a spark. After their lunchtime meeting, he became a regular, bringing off food and interviewing sources at her kitchen table while she paced. His euphoric glee permeated the air. He'd chuckle in mid-sentence and clap her shoulder. "This story's gonna change lives, Poppy. Hospital reforms, accountability. Your pain's a beacon." But as the drafts piled up, Poppy realized the cost. Deke's notepad was full with her secrets, including the time she shouted at empty rooms, and the therapist who departed after she flung a vase. "You're exploiting me," she'd complained once, but he dismissed it. Journalism's truth. Truth heals. The publication day was chaotic. Outside the hospital, protesters chanted and talk shows were called. Poppy's phone rang nonstop. Old friends congratulating her, strangers critiquing her cold heart. She turned it off, pulled the blinds, and waited for the storm to pass. It did not. Luna was discharged from rehab after weeks of treatment, and she returned home to a mother who shuddered at her touch. Now in this snowbound kitchen, the distinct grief has crystallized. Luna's coma stole her youth, while Poppy's rejection stole her homecoming. "I tried, Mom. God, I tried. But every time I look at you, I see pity, not love." Poppy leaned out, but Luna drew back. "It's not pity. It's fear. What if I lose you again? The crash took you once. This brings you back, but changed. You're not my girl anymore." Across town, Deke Harlan stared at his corner office plaque. Editor-in-Chief, Eldridge Gazette. The promotion had come quickly, national syndication, book deals offered. He sat alone, with only a bottle of scotch for company. Deliriously happy? That phrase mocked him right now. Lila's photo, his niece, glared out from the desk, a smiling teen with Luna's hair. Last week, he went to her actual grave and placed atonement stones. His spiteful sister had slammed the door. "You profited off her death, Deke. Stay away." The job's light dimmed with each passing day. Staff meetings went on, and the anecdotes became tedious. Deke's once loud chuckle now sounded phony. He missed freelancing's ruggedness and solo hunts. Success had isolated him as a king in an empty castle. One night, drunk dialing Poppy, he confessed, "I thought this was it, the peak. But it's a cliff. Happiness slipped, and now I'm falling into the saddest pit." Poppy, sleeplessness her bedfellow, met him at the cafe at 3 a.m. Over greasy eggs, they dissected their fractures. "Your shock was my envy," Deke admitted. "I was so high on the win I ignored your pain and mine." Their friendship grew platonic but intense, a shared sadness building strange kinship. The moment should have felt sacred and full of promise. Instead, it was filled with confusion and fear. Hope had always believed in happy endings. She believed in long-lasting love, the laughter of children at play, and the warmth of a safe home. But the truth about her situation was unraveling inside her like an old thread pulled too tight. She was pregnant, but she had no idea who the father was. The question hung in the air unspoken, but it weighed on her heart as if she had invited a storm and couldn't find refuge. The two men, the one she had loved for so long and turned to when her certainty faltered, both had a place in her mind, her past, and possibly in the child she carried. But neither provided clarification. Each had evoked emotions, provided hope, and left her wondering. And now she was in the midst of something fragile and irreversible. In the beginning, she told herself it didn't matter because a baby, a new life, was always a blessing. She would figure it out later. She'd hold the child in her arms, whisper promises, and allow her world to revolve around the miracle. But as the weeks passed, the tiny kicks inside became more powerful. In the quiet of late evenings, she listened for a heartbeat she could feel but couldn't identify. And she wondered who this baby would call father. Will the child inherit a loving and protective father, or one who abandons them because the truth is unclear? She imagined the first man, the one she trusted, reaching out in the darkness. There had been laughter, shared dreams, and a home filled with comforting warmth. He held her when the tears flowed, wiped her brow, and assured her that everything would be fine. She believed him. She believed them. But she ignored the cracks. Moments of distance. Secrets are just beyond her asking. Then there was the other man. Abrupt, intense, and unexpected. A surprise emotional collision that left her unsettled but alive. He offered a different future, perhaps not the ideal one, but one she could rely on when the familiar failed. And now she was caught between two presents and one future, with fate seeming to have already made her decision. She couldn't erase the past. She couldn't know the father until the test came, and time revealed what she dared not ask. But she could feel the cost. The fear of rejection, the dread of a child without a clear anchor, and the ache of knowing that someone's hopes could be dashed either way. Every time she looked in the mirror, she thought of the tiny life inside her, and she saw two men in that reflection. One standing behind her, asking for a place, and the other waiting for an outcome she couldn't guarantee. She wondered if the child would be at ease knowing that their father was undefined, someone hopeful but unknown. She was worried about the days ahead. When the child arrives, what story will she tell? Would she tell the truth first, that its father was unknown, and that love was more than a name? Or would she create a safe beginning, a story of a father and child coming together, to protect the innocence before the questions arose? She walked to the window and gazed out at the quiet street, the leaves trembling in the autumn breeze. The world outside continued as usual: neighbors, traffic, the passage of time. Nonetheless, the world within her was shifting. The baby inside stirred. She gently placed a hand on the bump. "I'm here," she whispered. "I'm with you, even though I don't have all the answers." Tears welled up as she considered canceling the life she had once imagined. Not because she regretted this child, but because she realized how lonely the journey could be. She felt a funeral for her old fantasies, the simple love story she imagined she was creating, the certainty of a father and mother together. Instead, she was embarking on something new and unknown. There would be joy, she had to believe that, but there would also be wounds, questions, and possibly resentment. A child enters the world without a clear map. She considered the various father possibilities, each of which was real, flawed, and human. She considered how each person would react if told the truth. Would one love the child fiercely? Would the other quietly walk away, leaving gaps in the child's life? Would both stand at the threshold of this new life, acknowledging or denying their role? And she imagined the child years from now looking back and wondering, who am I? Who loved me first? Who knew me before my birth? She had a dream one night about a small hand reaching for hers, an infant face cradled in her arms, and a father figure smiling warmly. But when she awoke, the dream had ended and the room was quiet again. She placed her hand on her heart and let the rhythm support her. She whispered, "This is for you," and kept her promise, even though she had no idea how it would play out. Friends and family offered her support while also passing judgment. Some asked if she was certain. Other people whispered their assumptions. None of them knew the whole truth, so she bore the burden alone. She felt both shame and pride. Shame for the ambiguity and pride for the new life she was creating. She attempted to reconcile the two but occasionally failed. In her darkest moments she wondered if she'd made a mistake, if the path would have been easier if she'd waited, chosen, or known. But then she felt the baby stretch within her, and was rejuvenated by the simple fact of existence. She imagined introducing the child to the father one day, whoever he was. She imagined the child asking, "Mom, who is my father?" So what would she say? She hoped to be truthful. "I don't know for sure. But I know he loved you, and you have a mother who will love you just as much." She hoped the child would accept that answer, or at least understand that love was never uncertain, no matter who the father was. The weeks have passed. The baby's presence grew, and her shape became more defined beneath her clothing. She found herself reading lullabies, imagining a nursery, and even planning future birthdays. She accomplished all of this amidst a storm of unknowns. The pregnancy became a symbol of both what she lacked and what she could achieve. She lacked certainty. She was capable of creating safety. She lacked certainty about her father. She could provide certainty of love. And when the time came, which she knew would be soon, she would bring the baby into the world, clasp it to her chest, and feel that tiny life breathe. She would see those two men again, perhaps with hope or regret, silent or present. She would confront them and the truth together. And with that child in her arms and unwavering love in her heart, she would tell the story, an imperfect story but a true one. A story about a mother who chose hope despite her lack of knowledge. Because despite her name, hope, and the uncertain future, she believed the child had the potential to be brave. Better than the agony of waiting. Braver than the fear of being absent. Braver because love had called first. And she would stand strong for that child even if she had to do so alone.